Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I hope you're doing well. For today's guest, we have Jake Tuura. You probably know Jake from Instagram. He's become pretty popular over there. And in particular, I think for his views and his education on knee pain and patellar tendinopathy. Jake obviously has had patellar tendinopathy in the past. I have had a pretty extensive history of patellar tendinopathy. You wouldn't be listening to me now if I didn't have that issue in the past. It's the reason I got into this industry in the first place. And Jake has done a brilliant job in picking the brains of some really smart people in those worlds, in the patellar tendinopathy, in the knee pain world, and helping educate people. And that's what we chat about today: knee pain, patellar tendinopathy, isometrics, where pain fits in, how much pain should you be training through, how you progress through the rehab process, exercise selection, where does biomechanics come into the picture, all of those things. So I first met Jake a few years ago when I appeared on his podcast. I think I've been on as a guest a couple of times, so it was nice to get him to return the favor over here. And it's just quite a casual chat. Neither of us are saying we have all the answers. We're just trying to figure it out as we go along. And honestly, I think Jake has done a brilliant job, and he has I think I and a lot of others appreciate his no nonsense view on things, where he just tells it as he sees it. So I think you're really going to enjoy the episode. If you have a knee, then it's worth listening to, even if it's not in pain or you work with people in pain. Just have a listen. You'll learn a lot. And please let us know if you like it. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share it. I would really appreciate that. That's your entry fee. And here's Jake. Enjoy the episode.
How you been though, man? The Michael Jordan hoodie, how's that?
Yeah, man. I'm a Jordan fan.
Are you?
Yeah.
I never owned Jordan shoes. They were always heavy, I think.
I never owned them either, but we don't wear them type of shoes because we're not playing basketball.
Oh, what do you mean?
Like they're not really big in Ireland. They're kind of coming in as a fashion statement kind of thing now, but they were never in that much before.
People don't play basketball there, huh?
Not really.
Really? Wow.
No, they did like not more. It's our sports are Gaelic football is probably the most popular. Hurling is probably second. We call soccer, which is you call it soccer as well, is probably third. Rugby is fourth. And then you're getting into things like basketball, athletics, swimming, all those kinds of sports.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Or we're so like, that's why you don't see many Irish athletes in the Olympics like winning medals, because one, we're such a small country, and two, like I think a lot of the best athletes are playing other sports.
I guess I never really pay attention to Ireland stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta message the boys. They got a training session. I might make it, I might not. I had Enda King. Do you know him?
Yeah, I listened.
I had him on the show, dude. I think that was good. I liked because where I go is like I try to get these people on and ask questions and everything, but you have 20 questions, they give you answers, then you have 100 more questions, but for him to simplify things, man, it's crazy. When you can find someone that can simplify things, it's huge. And for him to like even the small things, like him looking at like the biopsychosocial model as like the volume knob, it was just like, dude, that's crazy, because you know with the tendon issues, because it'd be like my tendon hurts and it's all the psychosocial aspects. It's like, well, no, because if you sit on the couch and don't do anything, it's probably not going to hurt. So yeah, dude, I like that guy a lot. He had some really good, but he's more an ACL rehab. And I'm like, for myself, I'm like, I do not care about anything except for the patellar tendon, because it's the only thing
I'm keeping this in the podcast, by the way.
Yeah, go ahead. It's the only thing that I've struggled with, and patellofemoral pain, like a little bit here and there. So it's the only thing that I really care about. So I am pretty effortless for me to research. But yeah, things like ACL rehab or stuff like I'll know enough to help an athlete if I'm training them, but I'm not going to know that much. So if people have in-depth questions or they struggle with things, it's like, I'm not the guy, find somebody else,
I like your singular focus on that and your honesty as well. I like that. And I listen to almost zero podcasts from people in the industry on anything to do with movement. I just I don't enjoy it really, but I did listen to Enda. He's very smart, very good, very, very good. There's very few coaches or therapists or whatever that have the knowledge and then are able to distill it in simple ways. And if you see him coaching, I haven't met him, but I've seen like clips of him and stuff like that. He's a really good coach. The way he coaches like movements, the way he uses his words, very, very good. Mm-hmm. And it helps that he's been an athlete as well.
Yeah, that's so dude, that's been my struggle actually is I mean, and for me, I know you have your courses online, like your 3 programs, and for myself, it took me months to get those together, you know? And they're simple. They're so short and easy, but it's so hard to create something out of thin air and put all this knowledge and then simplify it in a way where it's gonna work for the masses and not confuse people. Mm-hmm. And currently that's my struggle too, is I'm trying to get more information on the patellar tendon, on patellofemoral pain, and there's so much information, good information, and I'm still attempting to figure it out in my head in a way that's going to be simple enough for people to use. Because dude, anyone in the world can say, oh, it depends. You might need something different. You know, it doesn't help anyone. Yes, of course it depends. So it's like, it's kind of overwhelming. I mean, I think when you work one-on-one with a person, you can get through those things easier, because you can probably be like, okay, your tibia doesn't rotate or something, and it's like you can throw 1,000 things at them and get it to fix, you know. But you're trying to do it online, it's like, what do you say? Do you say the 1,000 things and confuse them, or do you say, let's try this one simple thing, and they try the one simple thing, and then what if that doesn't work though? Then it's like, okay, there's 999 other things we could have done, you know. I don't know if you have any insight there. That's just tough for me.
Well, I do get to work one-on-one with people, but I obviously have the programs and stuff as well. When I'm working one-on-one with someone with a tendon issue, I will usually give them I'll always load them, right? With everyone, I'll always load them. I will almost always pick some kind of biomechanical aspect that I think we can work on. And I think it's important to do it, not just, even if that thing doesn't help the tendon too much, if I'm like, I can just improve your movement so much here by just getting this hip to move in a certain way. Like, that's going to serve them for the next 20 years. That's also why I almost always give someone some kind of breathing exercise, because if they can go and do that, they won't need to go to half the physiotherapy sessions that, like, every time your back gets jacked up, just lie down and breathe and relax. Like, how can I not teach someone that skill? So for me, it's just picking the 2 to 3 initially, at least. Like, obviously we'll get to a full gym program, all that stuff. Initially it's 2 or 3, the biggest elephants in the room, and attacking those. And I test and retest. Obviously I have the ability to do that, but just picking the biggest elephants, and at least one of those things will definitely pay off. And if you do them right and you coach it right, 2 or 3 of them will definitely pay off.
Mm-hmm. You know? Dude, when I talked with you last, you came on my podcast, I think you were talking about like 3 things that for rehab, I don't know what it was, but you were talking about doing having movement that you're not thinking about. Mm-hmm. You know. And I think at the time I was in California, I was dealing with patellofemoral pain, kind of bad on my right side, and my vastus lateralis was just like locked up and dense and everything. And I was like, I didn't know what was going on, man. Like, and I tried all the things I knew. Like, I thought it was like a patellar tendon pain, so it's like can be pretty simple, but I don't think it was. Looking back, and I did all the gym stuff. My quads were strong, you know, and it's just like it never helped. And then I came to Minneapolis, so I started working at a gym this summer, and I started playing basketball like 4 days a week. And patellofemoral pain just went away. Just from playing basketball like 4 days a week, because I couldn't play. California was locked down, gyms were shut down. I wasn't doing anything like that. Maybe I didn't have the biopsychosocial aspects. I didn't have a group of friends out there like I do here. But it was me, like, for ever since I've kind of rehabbed my patellar tendon, I've been putting my body under these like 500-pound squats or 600-pound deadlifts, or it's like jumping 30 plus inches or doing these crazy things. And I didn't get that when I was in California. It's like I completely stopped that stuff. So I think for me if I was going to try to go and do some really isolated or low level biomechanical thing, I don't know if that would have helped. And for me, it was like, I didn't have to think about anything at all. I just had to get on a basketball court. And I don't know what that was. Is that like getting the brain more involved, like the vestibular system and the vision and everything, where you can't really focus on pain as much. But it was huge. And probably I think it's a good thing to take those stories, those anecdotes, but it can also be bad because then it influences me. It gives me my own bias when I talk to other people, you know, and it'll be like, well, basketball can be good or something. And then it's like, you look at the way they play and it's like, they're going 200% and just destroying themselves. And I'm like, dude, I'm playing pickup at LA Fitness with these kids who suck. You know, it's like, I don't have to try most of the time.
Yeah. I think the lesson from that though is just that fucking anything could help. And like, you know, that's why I try and get everyone to go for like someone who's like more chronic pain, doesn't matter what it is, like just go and do more walking. Stop thinking, what's my foot doing when I hit the floor? Just go and have a walk, look up, look around. That probably helps most people because they're just going to relax a bit more and move. Going playing basketball, meeting a friend for coffee, like that's anything could help. And you don't know why. I have no idea why. I think that's the lesson there. Maybe it was the like low level plyometric that you were getting.
I know, dude, I think that was one thing I missed too, is that I used to, when I was at university, and I hated being at whatever, I was there, and I had a gym basically to myself, like a little basketball gym. There was 6 racks. I sometimes had a training partner, but I trained all the time. I had nothing else to do in Ohio, in Youngstown, Ohio. So I trained all the time. I got so many low-level plyometrics. And then I started playing spike ball. I'd play like 2-3 hours of spike ball a day. And it's kind of like, I think I had trained that way for so long and got all of these abilities. And then I stopped training that way and it all went down. And I think with COVID, when I moved to my parents for a little bit, like 3 months maybe for COVID, because the university didn't want me there. And then it was again, man, I just went to lifting heavy weights and doing dunk sessions, and I'm not playing basketball anymore. I'm not playing spike ball. So the whatever it was, 10 hours of low level plyometrics I got every single week, I no longer got anymore. And then my left patellar tendon started to blow up, and I never had left patellar tendon pain in my life. So I think you can, if there was a way to keep a training log, like just a very general training log, it's probably pretty easy to look at that and be like, what changes in load did I get? Like what maybe spikes in load, but also like, what did I take away? And now I've lost that ability. And in hindsight, it's so easy to see, but when you're going through it, it's like, dude, why does my knee hurt? This never happened before. And it's like, you're not going to think, maybe it's because I'm not playing spike ball as much, you know? There's no way you're going to think that, you know?
Yeah, it's very hard. It's very hard. That's why I'm distrusting sometimes of some S&C coaches, like who their thing is, look how high I can jump as an S&C coach, and I'm going to train you to be a better athlete because I can jump so high. But like they can't. Some of them can't change direction at all. They can't do this and that. They're trying to tell a field-based sport, you could jump like me if you trained like me. It's like, I need to do all these other things as well. You know.
Well, dude, hey, that's giving credit, because at least you're saying a strength coach could jump. Usually they're just stupid strong and they're fat powerlifters, and then they judge all the athletes for being soft.
Yeah, true. But some of them can jump. Some of them can jump
through
the roof.
True. Yeah. But I see that from the big weight room guys. They can jump like crazy, but then if you get them to do an approach jump, it looks like they can't, they're uncoordinated, and they might actually lose a few inches because like they can't transition any horizontal to vertical. It's like they're only good at squatting and deadlifting and split squatting and moving, standing there and jumping. And it's like, dude, you got to realize, like, in athletics, there's a lot more going on than this. Yeah. And also, man, you're training these kids in team sports. If you're at I don't know, if you're at a high level, it's like, do they really need to push these physical qualities like crazy? You know, there's so much other stuff going on, and often they might have just had it. So if you're going to have a disconnect as a strength coach, because usually the strength coach is kind of like the workhorse guy who had to work for everything. And then if you get really gifted D1 athletes or got people that might go pro, it's like, maybe they didn't have to work like that. And you're going to tell them, like, the way you do one thing is, or the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. So it's like, dude, get out of here, man. Like, everyone is so different. And then you use phrases like that. Like, come on, go tell it to Allen Iverson. Like Allen Iverson doesn't want to touch weights. He don't even want to go to practice. And you can say, how you do one thing, it's how you do everything. You know, it's like,
on the practice.
oh, yeah.
The approach stuff is interesting. That's Bosch's. That's what Bosch is his big thing effectively is what he's saying there about the strength coaches is can't overcome muscle slack. Like they need that big counter movement to overcome muscle slack. Other people will phrase it as you're just not training the skill of the approach. They're effectively saying the same thing because some people are talking about like the skill of the penultimate step or the approach or whatever. And they think Bosch isn't talking about that. He's talking about the skill at the intramuscular and intermuscular level when that's happening. But whether you need to train Bosch clean to do that or whether you just need to go and practice more approaches, probably the latter.
So I'm one guy in the dunk world, I guess if you call it that. There's very few people who have a short penultimate. If they're 2-leg guys, you know, a very short penultimate. And I get people. I mean, I even get this one guy who like runs a company, and then but usually it's young kids. Hey, lengthen your penultimate, bro. You're gonna jump so much higher, and it's like, get out of here, guys. You don't even know me. But I also think that if we talk about that, getting that longer penultimate and having to have that muscle slack ability, you know, like what if you just don't have the capacity to handle all of that speed on that one leg at that one moment, and now you're gonna force an athlete, hey, really lengthen your penultimate, work on lengthen. It's like the brain has figured this out. It doesn't want you to use a long penultimate. It wants you to use a short one so that you can hit, and then the other one can come down right away, and then you can kind of distribute the force with both legs. So I don't think we ever look at it from that. I don't want to say injury, but maybe like look at it from more of like an overuse standpoint of why force your body to do something that it doesn't want to do. And if you want a longer one, which you probably do, because most people who jump high do have who want to maximize their jump, have a longer penultimate. It might just take you a few years, you know, just get the hang of it over time, but let your structures adapt to it. Don't just say, hey, we need to and it's like, yeah, what if you don't have that muscle slack ability? Then you're just going to be torquing on your knees. And it's like, you probably don't want that.
No, it's as simple as this. Maybe it's a good idea. Look, I don't know anything. I'm not in that world, but maybe it's a good idea to lengthen a penultimate, but telling someone to lengthen a penultimate using those words is certainly not going to work. Like, you know, maybe putting a constraint there where, I don't know, like you have to step over a mini hurdle or something to do that. I don't know. I don't think that would work. But for instance, maybe then the system can organize, but just actively lengthening your penultimate for the sake of it is going to make you probably worse in the short term. Yeah. I think you just lengthen it by virtue of learning to jump higher, and then that just happens.
Yeah. But hey, dude, no, the thing is people are stupid, you know. They want simple, they want to take anything and then apply it to everything, you know. Like before we came on, I was thinking about we talked about ENDA, and I want to get this one guy, Michael Kerr, Kjaer. He's a researcher with tendons, and he put some stuff on the circadian rhythm when tendons of like during the daytime it kind of accumulates, what he said, accumulates damage and waste products. I don't know the exact words. And then at night, it kind of like cleans everything up. So he was talking about the circadian rhythm being off. They did it in like mice and rats or something, that can lead to some degradation over time. And then, you know, that tendon pain, you're not going to get tendon pain if you don't have the degradation. So it's like, maybe there's something to this. I post something like that on a story, and the kid's like, man, what did he say? He was like, my sleep schedule is all off. It's no wonder why I have bad tendinopathy. It's like, oh my, come on, man. Like, or I posted one on caffeine. I posted one on caffeine too, because Keith Barr had some research, like very early research in the caffeine and tendon world that you can't extrapolate anything out of yet. And I posted a little bit on that. He's like, I drink so much caffeine every day, my tendons are all wrecked. It makes complete sense. It's like most like, and that's most people. That's most people. You guys are so stupid. I don't understand.
Enda spoke a lot about keeping a vertical shin, didn't he? He did.
Well, I think I'm trying to think of what he did. I think my most recent thing is like I listened to one Jill Cook podcast, and they were talking kind of about that, because they were kind of talking vertical shin versus that like knees over toes type thing, and it was a podcast with both Jill and Ebony, and they were just talking about should we push into that position, and they were like, well, what's the goal? Is the goal quad strength? And she's like, we can get good quad strength with a vertical shin. I don't know what Enda said. But the one thing that stuck out with Enda was that the pain thing of like, you should don't even go into pain, don't even go into discomfort.
Yeah.
Because from mostly everyone else, I've heard the opposite, where they say if your tendon hurts, well, it's a good thing to tell people that if your tendon hurts and you're doing exercise, like you're not causing more damage. At least if it's not like okay, you're probably causing damage if your patellar tendon hurts and you're just jumping, like that type of pain, like cold vertical jump with a patellar tendon, bad patellar tendon, you're probably causing some damage. But if you're in the gym squatting and doing a leg extension, it's like, oh, my tendon kind of hurts. It's like the idea you're not causing that much pain. Yeah. But yeah, I've heard other people like PTs or the researchers of like, you can use a little bit of pain in training, but as long as the next day is okay, you're fine. But yeah, what Enda said was just like, don't push through pain, don't push through discomfort, because you always pay for it the next day. I was like, well, that's different. That's not what I heard from other people, but I've been trying that myself too, because I usually push through pain. And I do think that the next morning I do pay for it.
Yeah. I think there's a fine line there. I don't think
it's one I know. Exactly. Yeah. I think I heard it. And now it's like, I'm on that far extreme of like, let me try this out, whereas it's probably like, I might think actually, maybe it's individual, is someone can do a leg extension and get like a 5 out of 10 pain. The next morning they have nothing. You're fine. But if someone does a 5 out of 10 and it hurts the next, it's like, okay, maybe not.
Yeah. For me, back 10 years ago, when I was maybe more, when my tendon was really bad, I avoided pushing into pain at all in outside of training sessions. So outside on the pitch or whatever, I obviously I was absolutely crucified as I was training there. And then in the gym and stuff, I stayed away from it completely. It was like, little story, I went up to Santry Sports Clinic back then, over 10 years ago, I think, where Enda works. It's one of the best sports clinics in the world. Some of the staff there, Colin Griffin, Enda, they're absolutely brilliant. People travel from all over to go to them. But I went there and the physio was trying to teach me to squat with a completely vertical shin. And it was a front squat. And he stood in front of me for half an hour with his finger in front of my knee and trying to get me to like bend at the hip first. And you can't really do it. You just can't squat. And it was just again and again and again. Every single thing was vertical shin. And after going up 3 sessions, I took a month off training in the middle of a like big important season and went back for I think it was the 3rd session. And then the head physio came over. I can't remember what his name was at the time. And in front of me, he said to the other physio, "Oh, you shouldn't have been doing any of that stuff. I wouldn't have done any of that." And I just fucking walked out. I was like, I'm never coming back here again. I just wasted a month of my life doing stupid things. So, but they've changed a lot since then. And that was just my experience. But I was interested. I heard Enda talking about the vertical shin, but then he does have ACL on his mind. Most people think of ACL with like knee valgus, but the sagittal plane is the issue in the first place. There's not enough co-contraction and stiffness there. So then the knee starts to go forward. And then when it goes forward, there's valgus. So it was interesting, like hearing that. I don't know.
Yeah,
I wanted to ask you about that.
Mm-hmm. I remember it now. Yeah, doing the wall squat. He was referencing that, doing a wall squat, facing the wall, not letting your like knees hit. But I don't think it seemed like he was of the idea of let's get the hips and the knees to kind of distribute force together, instead of if someone is like very like, I would think that if someone's very quad dominant and they do a squat or they do a hinge with just their knees, like they're doing a hip hinge and they just use more knees than they should, you probably might use an exercise like that or do more hinges, to kind of hopefully balance things out. I think maybe was the idea. But it seemed like he was kind of the idea of not just like, I don't know, not bending the knees forward, but yes, definitely the ACL thing. He's definitely thinking ACL. And I would never think that. It's like patellar tendon rehab, patellar tendon is an issue. I'm not going to think about ACL. I'm just going to be like, I don't care what I'm doing. Like let me torque the ACL or like increase the chance of ACL. I'm not thinking about that. I'm just thinking about getting my patellar tendon better. Yeah. But the what was I going to say? Oh, the whole wall squat thing, dude. When my patellar tendon was bad, I went through a few programs myself. I mean, I went through surgery, I went through PT, and I bought this program from one of these guys, like $30. I think it was an athlete's guide to chronic knee pain. I think that's what it was called. And it was all hip glute activation. That's the whole program. So I'd be laying on the floor. It was when I was an undergrad. I think it was a sophomore or a junior, laying on the floor in my dorm room. I would do like prone glute raises, like hundreds of reps, bird dogs. It took me like 90 minutes to do each session. It was miserable. It was terrible. And I did it for months, and it didn't do anything for my patellar tendon. But so I'm biased against that. But I think looking back now, I'm like, if there is a way where you have an athlete that can take some of that force with their hips by changing their jumping or landing pattern a little bit, that's probably a good thing. You know, if they can take some of that, if you have an idea of an athlete that's just landing with their knees just flying forward, it's like, let's try to distribute that a little bit back, like sit back a little bit. That's probably going to be a good thing. Yeah. I don't think we really talk about that, the hip and the knee thing. I think we more talk about like the foot, you know, the foot being able to move, distribute force. But you hate to like throw something completely out. And I did for a long time. I'm just like, no, those biomechanics don't matter. The hips biomechanics don't matter. Just freaking train your quads and train your calves. But it's like, I think there's definitely something to that. Yeah. And there's probably a case of a person, I think they've done research on this where they've shown huge pain decreases in a group of people where all they did was that glute type stuff. Like they have someone with patellar tendon issues and all they do is glute training and glute and landing patterns to get the hips more. And these people get pain relief. So I think there's probably a group of people where it could work really well.
I would love to see that research on exactly the videos of how they were training them, because I guarantee you they're just actually loading the tendon when they do the landings and stuff. You know, they're just training, actually getting landings back in a progressive way.
Yeah, I think some of those patellar tendon researches the research is kind of messy, and then you have the idea of like maybe it's not a true patellar tendon and it might be like something else going on, but some of those studies, they take people with a pain that's like a 3 out of 10, and it's like, what's the point of even taking this person 3 out of 10? Like, what are you gonna see? So I don't think in that group they might have. No, it wasn't even a group. It was a single guy. So it was a case study. It was a single guy case study, and I mean, I might be able to find it. It was pretty interesting to look at, but I was also like, yeah, I ain't using this for like the main means of getting patellar tendon back.
Look, I think the answer is, for me at least, just getting better at it, like helping someone get better at everything. So if I want to teach them to use their hips a lot more, I'm going to just give them more hinging work. I'm not going to try and get them to hinge more in their squat. I'm going to improve their squat and improve their hinge and improve their hip internal and external rotation, improve how the ankle and the foot moves and loads, strengthen the calf, strengthen the quad, all of these things. And that's what I do with every client anyway. It just has to be different with a tendon issue because you have to be smarter with it and stuff, how you increase the load. Maybe that's starting with a leg extension or whatever, but that's what I would just think about doing anyway. I just can't understand the fight between the biomechanics people and the load people. If you don't understand the biomechanics, you can give someone a squat all day long and they will not load their tendon. They'll just keep not loading it. You know?
It might, man. I think you could probably pair this up with like the personality type, the people who are the biomechanics and the load tolerance people. I went out to like New Jersey. You laugh, you probably imagine it now, but I went out to New Jersey. My friend Zach Evanesh, he's like big time strength coach in the States. We're talking about Cal Dietz, and Cal Dietz is like kind of the scientific strength coach, and Zach was like, dude, that he's going to attract the science-minded strength coach. But he's like, myself, because Zach is like a wrestling guy, like a mental toughness guy. He's like, I don't care much for that. I'm more attracted to the mental toughness guy, you know? And he's like listing off these different groups of strength coaches. I'm like, dude, that's crazy. Like these people, if whatever personality type you are, you're going to identify with that other person. So I think for myself, like I play basketball, so it's kind of different because basketball guys are not usually meatheads or don't like to touch weights at all. But I'm like, I love lifting weights, you know, like powerlifting, bodybuilding, and like I've seen huge gains from it. So it's like when I get patellar tendon rehab, I'm gonna veer on the side of the increasing the load, you know, and then it's like the biomechanics side where you look at guys who are like 100 pounds doing like a reaching split squat or something. I'm gonna be turned off to that, you know, be like, I don't want to breathe in balloons, you know, I just want to let me just load my tendon. I think it's just whoever you connect with, and we all have a flawed brain. Like we have so many cognitive biases, and the big one probably is what has worked for us in the past. Yeah. And then we go and try to use that with other people. I think, you talk with Joel Smith, his podcast a lot. We both have vertical jump training. My friend Will has vertical jump training, and me and Will are both lifters. Like we both, he probably, I mean, he's stronger than me, but it's like whatever, 400, 500, 600 pound squats. And that's how we get our vertical jump up. But we're like the force guys. We're wide guys, force guys. But then you have Joel, who's like the track guy, the skinny track guy, and he gets his without the heavy lifting with doing the plyometric volume. So it's like Joel's going to train someone probably like that. And people who are attracted to Joel and are the narrow guys are probably going to go to Joel. And for me and Will, the guys who are bigger and have like a wider ISA or just love lifting, they're probably going to come to us. So it's like, is one right or wrong, or can we hate on one another? It's like, man, we're training completely different groups and completely different identities.
Mm-hmm. That's why having conversations is good, because it does humble you. You talk to all different people. You talk to someone again that like it humbles you because you're listening to him talking and his experiences, and especially if someone can articulate themselves well, you start to think like this isn't a dumb person. This is someone who's really thought things through, but they're still saying something that's maybe a little different. Not end is just an example, like, but you know, they're saying something different, but they're saying it for a reason. And also what also humbles you is actually just working with people and realizing that none of it matters if I don't get a result with them. So what matters most is not my training ideology. It's just how I actually help the person. And that's definitely humbled me a lot over the years. It's just, I need to have more tools in my toolbox, and I try to be as not as biased. Yeah, just the least amount of bias I can, but I'm still biased. Yeah. Of course, you know.
I'm actually curious how you deal with that. Is you have people, if someone does get a pain decrease or they see a result, they're so quick to say, here's a mechanism. It's like, man, there are 1,000 mechanisms at play. Like, just leave it alone. Don't even try to address it. You're not smart enough to address it. But I did a Q&A yesterday, and I put up like, this guy had a bulging disc or something, or a back issue, and his knee was tight. And I'm like, well, I don't know what I said. I just said, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Don't ask a random guy on Instagram. Some kid messaged me on a message, and he was like, tell him to do ATG because I did ATG and I got my knees better and it resolved my back. And I was just like, what? Like, you're working the back is higher up towards the brain. Like, you know, like that's not, I don't think that's what's going on. But I'm like, I'm not going to dismiss your results, kid. If that gave you results, cool. But now you're going to say my one story is going to apply to the other 7 billion people in the world. Like, get out of here.
What about the person who did ATG for their knee and they ended up hurting their back?
I know. Yeah. So, you know, it's, I think the problem is just these people, when you attempt to give an explanation for something and it's a very poor explanation, if someone doesn't call you out on it, you're gonna still go out and give the explanation again and again and again. So if sometimes people maybe are judgmental towards me of like if I'm kind of cold or give kind of an answer like that, but it's like, no, the kid gave a bad explanation for something, so I'm going to call him out and say that this is not valid. I'm not saying that your experience was wrong. I'm saying that your explanation is wrong, or your explanation is bad. And that's why if you continue to give this to other people, we're not going to like, and this is the idea with progress, is there's no progress to be made if you're just saying, this is my story and here's my explanation. It's a bad explanation. We can't make any progress from this. We're actually probably regressing from this. So for me to call you out, I'm doing the world a favor. You know, I'm doing the profession a favor. You're not going to go out and do this.
I thought it was the admin.
Oh, okay, yeah. The admin.
You're after giving the game away now.
I haven't talked about that. I haven't talked about that in a long time, dude. I haven't posted on my vertical jump protocol admin the page in a while. It's like, usually I go on to like hate on Goda or hate on someone saying like some claim that just doesn't exist, you know. But I think James, I don't know if you're familiar with James Smith. He's a strength coach in the States.
The thinker.
Yeah, the thinker. Yeah, because he always referenced that David Deutsch guy. David Deutsch says that he had that book where all I think probably paraphrasing, but all progress is made with better explanations. You know, so I'm like, that's pretty solid. I don't know anyone who can refute that. Yeah. And if you give an explanation for something and then I give a better explanation that can hold up to criticism, my explanation can make more progress than yours. So it's like, Why don't we attempt to give better explanations? But I think here's the problem is when you have people making money, like I guess we're making money online, is we might not be interested in that. We might just be interested in making money. So we might just want to market and not give the truth, because the truth is kind of hard. It might not make us as much money. So we're like, the separation of marketing and truth, I think.
It's tough. It's tough. I think I had this conversation. I think it was with Jamie Smith, actually, the Australian strength coach, Melbourne Strength Culture. I actually just released that podcast today. I think it was him I had the conversation with, and actually Instagram has helped me be better with my explanations and be better with not being as confident all the time with my explanations, because if I'm writing a caption and I'm saying this is the answer, some motherfucker is going to call me out on it. And I'm not going to do it again. I'm going to be more. So I just trying to poke holes in my argument all the time. And sometimes I'm very confident in my explanation as to why I helped someone, but I don't say it out loud. I'm like, I really think this is why I helped them, but like, I can't be very sure about backing that up. So I just don't say it.
Yeah. I love what Jill, maybe it's Jill and Ebony, they would always say is tendon rehab, probably rehab of anything, is it's always about improving pain and improving function, because it's like you can improve pain for a tendon by just maybe doing nothing, but that doesn't improve function, because if you want to go play basketball, so you have to get up to that point. And I'm like, these people, they ask questions on like, is this good? Is this good? Is this good? It's like, I could answer everything with, does it decrease pain and does it improve function? If it does, then use it. Go ahead. But I think that's so powerful, but I don't know. Maybe that's still not a common thing for people.
No, but that's why in the rehab world, you are literally not successful unless you have identified the end goal that someone wants to. I want to get back to doing this thing, and I got you there. This before and after thing that people post of like, or someone came in, their right shoulder was an inch lower and now it's the same level, like that can be a result, or it's cool to show that change, but why did they come in the first place? That's all that matters. And actually a lot of the time people won't even tell you why they came in the first place, because they're so afraid to articulate their end goal, which is, I haven't been able to play basketball in 2 years. So they'll come in and say, my knee hurts, or my shoulder hurts, or my hip hurts. But like, you have to find out the end goal. Otherwise you are not successful in their rehab. Simple as that.
Yeah. Like where you are now, where you want to be at the end, and then like kind of the graded exposure to get there. Dude, I got it once with my patellar tendon rehab. I had a PT. I don't know what we were doing, but she's like, what do you want to get back to? I'm like, I want to play basketball again. She's like, really? I don't know if that's ever going to happen. Like, and I was like, I think I was like 20 years old at the time, like I have all the capacity to recover in the world. And it's like, I don't know if you're going to play basketball again. It's like, what? Are you serious? Like, you should tell people this.
Not so fun. Not so fun. Because you're already thinking that in your own mind. Some of the time you're kind of like, am I in trouble here?
Yeah.
And then someone with authority says that to you, it's not so good.
But I was also, I look, and I'm also biased because I was so afraid to load my knees at the time for years. So I was so afraid to put anything on them, even squatting I was afraid of. But yeah, no pain whatsoever. Man, I forgot where I was going with that thought. Maybe I was going nowhere with that thought. But it's ended. It's gone. I had something, dude. It's gone now.
What where do you think, where have you netted out? You're not allowed to say it depends, obviously. Where do you think is the best entry point for people with tendon issues then, with patellar tendon issues? Where do you think is the safest starting point?
It depends. Okay, well, like I think that the 4-stage process is like so clear and so easy, where it's like, okay, you got a patellar tendon issue. Start with isometrics, start with the leg extension isometric, because like you probably know the quads are going to be shut down. You probably know that you have you have degeneration with the tendon, and if you believe in that Keith Bar stuff, it's like, I guess you can change the tendon. So like getting a load back to the tendon, so it's like isometrics. But I've kind of changed that too, because I've had people reach out where and this is where when Jill is just like, if you have a patellar tendon, it doesn't matter the load. It's going to like the load, it'll just, any load you can put on it, go ahead. And then Keith Barr is like, when you're trying to adapt the tendon, you should actually take the pin on the leg extension and put it out all the way at the bottom, and then do a 60 degrees and push as hard as you can to get like the overcoming isometric, But I've had people like purchase the program, get those ideas, apply it themselves, and their tendon will just blow up. It's only been like 2 guys. Their tendon just blows up for like the next week and they can't do anything. Yeah. And I'm automatically thinking like, I don't know if that's a tendon. I don't know if whatever, but they actually just experiment and they're like, okay, well, I started at like 60 pounds or whatever, 100 pounds. It was way too much. I've since scaled it way back to 10 pounds and then increased as discomfort pain allows.
Still doing the overcoming or changing?
No, not overcoming. It's just a pause. Yeah. Just a nice, yeah.
Yielding. It will be
yielding. Yeah, I guess So yeah, they and then it just kind of adapts better over time. So that's one thing too. When Endo was talking about the pain thing, where I was like, okay, that would be, I don't know if that's across the board or if that's for a person, but anyways, your question, like I think isometrics are probably the easiest place to start in something like that. You're just not going to get problems with it. You're not going to aggravate it more. You're gonna be able to get load through there. I think one thing that people don't talk about, and I made a video last summer on compression, patellar tendon compression, because they talk about, there's this research study with Jill and Craig Purdom, a bunch of people that are talking, I think Sean Docking, it was compression in tendinopathy, and they listed like 30 tendons that get compressed, and they didn't even reference the patellar tendon. I'm like, well, does the patellar tendon compression, tensile stress is like, it's just being tugged, you're tugging on the tendon, and then compression is when it's like, it's just running into something. So like the idea with the patellar tendon is the back of the patellar tendon is running into the patella kneecap. And that's usually where you see the degeneration. So that's where you get the, if you did MRI, if you did ultrasound, you would see that the degeneration would be on the back side of the patellar tendon, right where it's kind of hitting the bone. So it's like, maybe that's going on. And then they actually did a research. It was like patellar tendinosis, a new hypothesis or something. And they covered the whole idea with compression. So anyways, it makes me think that anytime you're doing a deeper knee flexion position, or like a sissy squat where you're forcefully shoving the knees forward, could you potentially be causing that compression again on the patellar tendon? And maybe that's not a good thing. But I don't want to say that, because if it doesn't hurt, then you're probably good. And if it doesn't hurt the next morning, you're probably good. And you need to deal with compression, because you're going to get compression when you get back to sport. But I guess our conversation started with the entry point. And I'm like, the entry point is probably a leg extension, maybe a more straighter leg extension, because you're not going to get the compression. You're not going to get all the bad aspects of pain going on again. You can get load back in the tendon, and then you can progress from there, like very slowly. But to say, let's start and let's do a really knee dominant type position, if you don't tolerate it well, then you probably shouldn't. And why risk doing something that you might not tolerate well? Why not do something where we can get the benefit of getting the quad activated again and getting some stimulus through the patellar tendon by just getting out a leg extension?
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think people underestimate just how important it is in the beginning, at least, to build confidence again, to say to someone, when you do this exercise, if you went to the gym, did nothing except for a leg extension, you will wake up and feel a bit better tomorrow, and you've put some load, and you might feel your quad has done a bit of work. That's an empowering feeling for someone. Like, when I think back for me, I just was like, my knee is fucked. There's nothing I can do. No, absolutely nothing I can do. And like, if someone had taught me that back then, when I first realized, hang on, there is something I can do. It wasn't when I was keeping the vertical shin. It's when I started doing like horse stance isometrics and like split lunge isometrics, things like that. And it was kind of just by accident. I had given up on my knee, and I started doing these isometrics as part of a different training. And my knee started feeling better. I was like, holy shit. So just so understanding some load can give you that. And I don't understand Keith Barr's overcoming work there. That doesn't make sense to me.
Why?
It just doesn't. Especially not as any entry point. Like,
okay, yeah, I don't think that would, for him, he doesn't talk about rehab plan. He just talks about how do we get the tendon to adapt maximally, or whatever the phrase is. So yeah. probably not entry point thing to do it overcoming. But again, if it doesn't hurt and if pain is not worse the next day, it's always like, okay, you're probably fine. But then you have the case like the guy I was talking about where it's like, if he did that and he did do something like that, he's blown up for a whole week. It's like, well, dude, that's clearly too much. You must have a very bad tendon.
Yeah. With the yielding though, I'll have to look into, you might know the answer, you might not, but are they not trying to actually get the tendon to kind of yield a bit as well then in them longer held isometrics?
But how? What do you mean?
I need to look into it. I need to look into that. So apart from,
because you would need, so like I think the idea is like if you maybe a better example because with a leg extension, it just always seems like there's a little bit of room to move around, like your body, like just the slightest movements. But if you did like a wall sit, you're not really going to move much. If your feet are placed and your butt is in the wall, you're not going to move much. So it's like if you do a wall sit for a minute, and the idea is your quad muscle is consistently shortening, but your tendon is the one that's going to have to lengthen a tiny bit.
That's what I mean. But would the tendon be lengthening? Like you're getting that little bit of lengthening in the tendon, but if it's doing an overcoming, would it be doing that?
I don't know. And the overcoming seems so messy because you never know how hard you're pushing.
Unless you have a force plate.
I know. Yeah. And it's like not over time. It's just like, I don't know. It's not motivating to do because it's like you can push really hard for 10 seconds and then completely let up and then push again. And it's like you kind of feel the same thing.
I feel like it needs to be I feel like I could be wrong. I need to look into that. I feel like it needs to be. I only use yielding isometrics for tendon rehab until towards the end of the isometric process, or the end, maybe towards the middle or the end of the rehab. I'll start to give them overcoming isometrics, and I just like overcoming isometrics at that stage in any rehab, really. But I do feel like it probably needs to be a yielding early on.
But you do overcoming shorter.
What do you mean?
Is it shorter time? Like shorter duration?
Yeah, much shorter.
Is that's the thing too? Is like you're doing overcoming, you're going maximal. Like, can you really do that for 30 seconds? You probably do it for like, I don't know, 6 or 10. But yeah, I don't.
In his knee rehab at the moment, which is an ACL, we're doing 3-second maximal push for 3 reps and 3 sets. But that's not a tendon. That's just drive as hard as possible, go balls to the wall for 3 seconds, rest. Off you go again. Yeah.
I mean, I've used stuff like, and it's like, for other purposes, not for tendon, but dude, you said your story, you gave up on your tendon. Like I had the same thing. I had it so bad for so many years, and then I just completely gave up. I'm like, I'm not going to play basketball anymore. I'm not going to try dunking. I'm not going to try jumping. And I just got into bodybuilding and powerlifting, and then not that I competed in bodybuilding. I just was like, I just want to get huge, So I just
and you succeeded.
and then I got my job at Youngstown State, and I started training basketball players again. And I had a basketball court downstairs and everything, and like hurdles. So I'm like, I'm gonna start jumping again, and I just started jumping, and like it was like I was back, But then I had to learn about changes in load because I just went from like 2 years of no jumping to now I'm gonna jump 3 days this week and just blow my tendon up again. But I think that's another. That's one thing Jill talks about is people that when they have failed rehab with the tendon is like those people. I don't know what your thoughts are on this. Those people, they don't spend long enough in a gym program before they get back. Like saying, if we want to build muscle size, if we want to build muscle strength, if that's something that someone is lacking, I think for myself, if I had a patellar tendon issue, or if someone who had like huge quads had a patellar tendon issue, it'd probably be like, that'd be a case where you'd say, you don't need a 3-month gym program, dude. Like you got some other issue going on that we need to address. But yeah, that's one thing she was talking is these people that they don't spend long enough building up the structures, whether that is the quads or whether that is maybe part of that is letting the tendon, because if you have that hole in the tendon, that research that it actually grows bigger and gets better. It gets the healthy structure on the outside. Kind of that healing process, like Enda was talking about, that you have a natural healing process with the tendon, and we should kind of like paddle our canoe alongside, like you're saying. I love that analogy, but I was also like, what do you mean healing process? Like how much time, how much, but I think it was probably that process of the tendon is pissed off. Maybe there's some degeneration, whatever. It's going to take a while for the new collagen maybe to form on the outsides. So anyways, Jill's saying that you need to have that longer gym program. And I was wondering if that's like, okay, we're getting the muscle strength, but we're also getting the tendon adaptation. Do you think that's something that, have you seen with people that they just don't spend enough time with that like slower strength type work?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah, 100%. Now we spoke on your podcast and I said that I don't whenever I can, I'll keep people jumping and stuff like that. I just might bring it down from 3 days a week to 2 or from 2 to 1 or something like that if I need to, because I do find it hard sometimes to build people back up to the jumping and stuff, particularly if they actually won't commit to the gym program properly. Now they won't do the gym program and I just took away some of their jumping and now they're just like not as active. But yes, they don't commit for long enough to strengthening it. And particularly with field sports, definitely in Ireland, our season goes on, our Gaelic football or hurling season goes on nearly 12 months of the year sometimes, because guys could be playing or girls could be playing in college they could be playing with their under 21 team, they could be playing with their senior team, and they could be playing 2 sports, football and hurling. So it's like almost a year round. And if you have a tendon problem, that is a disaster, because there is no real defined off season where it's like 3 months to really solidly stress the tendon. So I make people write down what you're doing on the leg extension. Here's the exact weight you're lifting today. And if you come back to me, like if we didn't talk for 12 months and you came back to me and you're still lifting that weight on the leg extension or holding that weight, you have failed. You need to be I don't know, God knows how much lifting heavier. And that's their singular goal for the entire year, is to, even in season, get that number up on the leg extension. And then if they can get an off season, they need 3 months or 4 months of absolutely hammering leg press, leg extension, front squats, foam roller bridges, hamstring curls, soleus work, and trying to keep in some amount of plyometrics as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was reminded again of that whole thing with Daniel Bach, Jump Science. I don't know if you're familiar with him. Mm-hmm. Great dude, so smart, and he's a guy where you talk about giving good explanations. He gives amazing explanations for things, like you can't refute his explanations.
Me and Tim Riley were just talking about, I recorded a podcast with Tim. We're like, Daniel is so logical. Yeah. You just can't fuck with him.
But yeah, so we're talking about like those kids who they don't spend long enough in the gym program to really like build up the strength, build up maybe the strength of tendon and everything. And because Dan works with basketball guys and I have a history with basketball, is like any kid whoever's like, hey, you meet him at the gym, hey, I want to jump high or something. It's like, well, like you got to stop playing basketball so much, And that's one thing Dan had talked about recently. He said it before. It's like they just play too much basketball. Like if you want development, if you want to change yourself, your speed, your strength, your vertical, whatever it is, you have to take time away from basketball. You're playing basketball 5 days a week. You don't have the energy to put to the gym program. And I think that's one problem with those. I mean, you say with your sport there, but it's like the basketball guys that they never stop playing basketball. And usually you will not stop playing basketball because it's a year-round thing. And you can play anytime you want. You can play 7 days a week. Just get a ball, go to the court. You can get some friends or whatever. So it's like they're so overworked with basketball that the rehab will probably suffer, but the performance will also suffer because no one can ever dedicate enough time to a gym program, because you're just fatigued and there's too much time taken with the actual sport.
Yeah, and the way around that, I think, which is very hard, is you need to help them understand that even if it's not an injury thing, but if they're playing basketball 5 days a week, it's like if you play 3 days a week and focus on like these specific skills, what things do you need to get better at in your sport? You need to get better at shooting, or you need to get better at defense or offense or whatever the hell it is. Actually train those things with purpose, not just go and play a game of pickup and just do the same stupid things that you always do. You will get better at your sport training half the amount of time. And now we have time to develop the other qualities as well. And that goes for GAA as well, like Gaelic football and hurlers. You look at an athlete, a player playing today, and you look at him in 10 years' time, still makes the same mistake every time, still kicks the ball the exact same way, same crappy way. All these still makes the poor decisions. If they actually just spend time identified where they're weak, spent less time playing the sport, but more time working on those things and doing their gym program, they'll be 10 times the athlete. But they don't understand that, because practice is so poor particularly in team sports. Practice is so poor. If you're a tennis player and you keep making the same mistake, like you get it gets identified so quickly. You just keep hitting the net. You're not going to keep doing it. But in team sports, you just get away with the same shit again and again and again.
Yeah, I mean, that's one big reason I left college too. Is like, I mean, I see myself spending. I was there at that last university 3 years, and it's like you spend all this time like in the off season training all those people and get them ready for preseason, and then they go to preseason and it's like, all right, 3 hours of basketball practice, 5 days a week. It's like everything I did is pointless now. Like it was a complete waste of my time and their time, everyone's time, because nothing that we had gained, if they did get bigger or they did get stronger or they did in a way where they could use it on the court, they're not going to do it anymore because you just gave them 15 hours of basketball this week. But I also think if they actually went the intensity that a coach wanted them to, they would all be injured. So they just find a way to pace themselves, to go like 50%. But that's a big, I mean, I prefer online, or for many other reasons. You don't have to deal with the people that you disagree with or people that, but that whole aspect of, I'm going to go train this team for months and then we're going to send them to the coach and they're just going to be run into the ground. And it's like, I start to think like, I'm going to die someday. And the majority of my time is spent training this freaking team. And it's meaningless. It's just pointless. So I need to get out.
Yeah, man. You turned under Cal, did you?
Yeah, into that Minnesota. So I did like it was like a rotation thing where like there was 3 different gyms we were kind of at within Minnesota, because Cal has the hockey gym, and then there's like a basketball one kind of, and then there's like an Olympic one. So I kind of was at 3 different spots. So yeah, and then when I left Minnesota for probably the next 2 years, I just copied like word for word what Cal did and used it as justification to be like, oh, Cal did it and he's successful, so it's good, So probably like you, everything that you look at now and kind of are skeptical or critical of, that was once who I was. So it's like, that's why I am that way, because I think that kid who I was, I needed someone cold, someone who was smarter than me, way better than me, who could just be as blunt as possible, be like, dude, you are wrong and you're an idiot. I think that's what I needed.
What do you not agree with now that you would have done back then?
Well, it's actually like a completely, the way I looked at everything. Like I thought I could come into any program and make them successful as a freaking strength coach. I thought I could come into any program and I'm like, everyone needs to get stronger. Everyone needs to be faster, jump higher, change direction quicker. And I can do all this. I can help out. And it's like, then I think I read Fergus Connolly's book, Game Changer. And it's like, you have the tactical, technical, physical, psychological. And then I'm like, okay, I'm the physical side, so like started to put that together and be like, maybe I don't have that effect with the team sport. And then, we got a soccer coach at Youngstown who was a past strength coach who I did a couple podcasts with him. We called it, the red pill strength conditioning, because he would always use the Matrix analogy of like, dude, when you came in and you were that Cal dude, like you were the blue pill guy, when you're like, I'm going to take over everything and I'm going to be so effective and no one is doing anything right. And I have all the answers because I know Cal diets and you people don't, and you don't do triphasic. I do triphasic. You all are idiots that you don't do, So it's like, it was kind of that moment with him where it's like, all right, do you want to keep going this way, or do you want to like maybe attempt to give better explanations for what's going on in performance? So yeah, I think it's not even like, and dude, any strength coach can do anything they want. I'm not critical of anyone. Go and do whatever you want. It's just when you're going to start saying like, that's the reason for success, or that's what, like, get out of here. Like if you take a Division I kid in and they're 18 years old, like and they're amazing at their sport, they were already there. Like the best thing you can do is probably hopefully make sure they don't get hurt, give them a little bit of strength, give them a little bit of speed, whatever it is. But you're not making that person. And that's not good for marketing. So you don't see that very often.
that's the narrative thing though. I have the exact same feeling about the rehab world, the pain world, the physiotherapy world, all of that stuff. People are shitting all over biomechanics and stuff at the moment. Then they're giving out they're whinging at other people. In my opinion, get as smart as possible. Learn everything. Learn as much as you can. Knowledge, like know how to apply all of this stuff. Just stop. Be careful with the narratives you apply to it. I get so frustrated with the physios who are like biopsychosocial, but actually biomechanics doesn't matter. And then the biomechanical, some people who are interested in biomechanics get tossed in with these idiots who just have a biomechanical explanation for everything. So it's like, is the problem with biomechanics, or is the problem with the narrative that people are applying to it? That the problem is the people with the narrative that people are applying to it. So go and learn it. Be as smart as you can. Don't be dumb, but just don't apply a stupid narrative just because you learned something. That's the issue. And that's the same with the strength coach. It's like trying to have this narrative. That's the same with GOTA. I have no problem with any of the movements that they do. Do whatever the hell movements you want. Great. You're getting people moving, functional patterns. Go and get people moving. I have no problem with it. Just stop applying this weird, stupid narrative to it along with it. That's the only issue. And I think that's the issue that everyone has. Anyway, that's my rant. That's my rant.
Yeah. Well, dude, my only the narratives. Yeah. I mean, I do a little bit of that, but it's more like I made that Pokemon card with the leg extension in the background, you know, like. So it's like, I think actually I kind of dabble with the narratives, but it's more like a mockery maybe of those people that actually take that seriously, you know. It's like like if you do 4x10 and you don't do 8x5, like you're losing all gains and you're never going to make any progress, you know. I mean, I'll say that, and the people, I'm sure there are people that are like, is this guy serious? But the people who do know me are like, dude, that's actually pretty funny.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Who is out of all your people that you've had on your podcast, like these tendon people, who do you think is if you had a tendon issue now and you knew nothing, who would you be going to?
Oh,
because you've talked to some smart people.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, they all have, like, so the thing, man, first of all, when I first did that show with Jill, I was so, like, we talked for like 60 minutes. I was so engaged the whole time because it was crazy. I was like, she's saying all these things that I'm like, how is this going? And for like months after, man, it was just like, her word was kind of like gospel to me, you know? And then you kind of like dig a little deep. It's like, okay, maybe not. And she's so entertaining because she speaks so definitively. Like it's so entertaining. Yeah, it's so entertaining to listen to because it's just like, you can't have patellar tendon and patellofemoral at the same time. No, it doesn't happen, you know? And then it's like, I asked Ebony and she's like, well, I don't know. Ebony doesn't want to like, and then I asked that Claire Robertson and she's like, well, I disagree. And I've seen like 10,000 patients, so I disagree, you know? So, and then, so I'm like, well, okay. She sound like, so anyways, who would I go to? I think probably because he was recent, Enda seems like just everything he said made so much sense. And I'm like, the way he can simplify everything and then just have those ideas of like, where are you? Where do you want to be at the end? Man, I'm trying to think of all the other things because I know there was like 5 huge things. So I'm just like, these I wasn't even aware of this, but I think with him, his stuff was great. He references in another show, but he kind of gave he talked a lot about the calf too. The thing I think with Jill is like there's so much time spent on the strength work, you know, the isometric, the isotonic stages, which probably like very simple stuff, but then you get to the store and release and it's like, this is where things are going to go wrong. You know, this is where you're getting back into the high load tendon activities and what's the direction, you know, there still is no good direction there. So I think Enda had good ideas with that, you know, and then just getting the because you have that patellar tendon issue. It's like usually it's locked, so like getting that knee to bend again. It's almost like you're walking on a peg leg when your patellar tendon hurts. I had a anyway, sorry to go off tangent. So like, I can't really I probably would say endo, but I've learned from all those people and I can apply everything. But when I was in, I think I was in Philadelphia, cause I was traveling out East. I actually, I went to Indianapolis and I just destroyed my patellar tendon. Like I did vertical jump testing. I did heavy front squats. I did heavy deadlifts, hamstrings. Then I played basketball the next day, dunk sessions. I couldn't even walk up and down stairs for like 3 days. And it was like patellofemoral pain, both legs. And I was thinking like, am I ever going to get better? But it actually just took a few days and it went away. I just overdid it like crazy. And then, but I was in Philly and I did kind of a similar thing. And I remember walking into like a Planet Fitness, and the day prior I had just front squatted like 380 maybe or something like that, and throw down some pretty decent dunks and some high boxing. I'm walking in and like my knee is just giving out, like I can't even walk in the gym. Like you feel so powerful and like good performance wise the day prior, and then when the patellar tendon blows up the next day, it's like you can't even walk and your knee is giving out when you're walking into freaking Planet Fitness, and this lady who's 400 pounds and overweight is walking just fine and you can't even walk, your knee's giving out. So those cases, I mean, it's the advice I give, it's like don't change loads until it's like sometimes it's hard to follow, because if I'm with the boys and it's like, we're going to play basketball for 3 hours and we're going to dunk afterwards, I'm like, I'm not going to say no, we're going to do that. And I'm probably going to like not be able to get out of bed the next day, but I do know what I need to do now for rehab, which I think is the most powerful thing. Back when I had my patellar tendon, probably like you did, it's like, I didn't know what to do and I just rested. But now it's like, I know exactly what to do and I'll be back good in maybe 1 or 2 days.
Yeah. I'm with you. What's frustrating actually is, you see all these posts that like, oh, strength and condition and rehab, it's just recycling old ideas again and again and again. It's not. It's getting so much smart. Everyone's getting so much smarter. Everyone's getting so much better every single year. If you look back at like, yeah, because some of the exercises come back into fashion, that's fine. But like the reasoning behind doing them is so much better now. The programming, I think, is so much better in general. 99%. Yeah, some Russian guy was unbelievable back 60 years ago, but like the industry as a whole is moving way forward. People are way smarter. People's programming is getting better. Their load management is getting better. Biomechanical is getting better. The psychosocial model is there. People are starting to understand all of these things. Even 10 years ago, you couldn't find anything on patellar tendons. I certainly couldn't. I still have some guy's book, Fixed Patellar Tendon or something, pain or something like that. He was sending out emails all the time, and he was a big deal, and he was just doing a lot of glute stuff, like you were saying, the bird dogs, all of that stuff, So everything's getting so much better. There's so much. When I had a guy, I actually got emotional a couple of years ago. I had a young guy, a Gaelic footballer in, I think he was 21 or 2, similar age when I got my knee issue, and he was like, I need to retire from football. Like he had a big career ahead of him and he was pretty good and all this stuff. And he was saying, I'm destroyed. I can't even run. And within about 6 weeks, we had him back like almost 100%. And I was like, that was me 10 years ago. And it took me 7 years minimum to even, my career was like, I had to stop playing, blah, 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 to even figure out what was going on.
Yeah.
And like things there's so much hope there. There's so much information there. And I think you've definitely done a really good job with that, helping people with that.
Thank you. Do you think you could have been do you think you just had bad people treating you?
Yeah.
Like, do you think there were people out there that existed that were like better?
Oh yeah, I'm sure there was. Yeah.
Like to the level that you could have been back a lot faster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just told me to do some leg extensions.
Yeah.
I only really forgave where Enda works. Essentially, I only really forgave them and got that chip off my shoulder like 18 months ago. I was like, they gave me really poor advice at the time. But like I don't know. It wasn't Enda, by the way. It was a couple of other people. But like, if they gave me good advice at the time and really explained it, like things could have been very, very different. But they didn't. But then again, maybe that was just what was around at that time. They were doing the best to their ability, and no one knew very well. There was very little research, I think,
Yeah. Now that you say it, I think because actually I wasn't when I did get it. Yeah, anyway, there wasn't much like online. I think I found Kelly Starrett, like mobility WOD, and I was looking for like patellar tendon videos, and he didn't have any. So it's like anything that said the knee, I'm like, all right, I need this. You know, and it's like foveral mashing, whatever, and getting the pumping your quad on a lacrosse ball or something, like, you know, it's like, or stretching your hip because that's why your knee hurts, or doing some ankle dorsiflexion is limited, that's why your knee hurts, or stuff. And it's like none of this stuff helped at all. And I could not find, I guess now that I look back, you're right, like there was no information at all. It was garbage.
It was garbage.
It was awful.
I did the same thing. Kelly Starrett, I had that mobility WOD or the Supple Leopard book. I had the pages folded down that he was with knee stuff. I had our TRX working on like ab rollouts or these type of things, banded distractions for my knee joint, flossing for my knee joint, smashing every tissue that ever existed. Like that was what we did.
Yeah.
You know, that's 10 years ago. That's not even 10 years ago people were doing that. Now, some people are still doing that, but that's why when people say the industry isn't progressing, we're just recycling old ideas. No, we are not.
Yeah.
You know, you wouldn't get away with saying that stuff online anymore. You get hammered. You would hammer them.
I don't. I guess I don't go on comments and do stuff. Yeah. You know,
no, you do. You actually do, because I have this written down. Do you use a sandbag on your hip anymore for that internal rotation?
I haven't for a long time.
You did though.
Yeah, I did.
Because I came across a video only a week ago. It was suggested on my YouTube, and I went onto it, and it was someone talking about putting a sandbag on the hip and blah 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 blah, and giving big scientific explanation for it. And all the comments were like trolls saying this is bullshit, blah blah blah. The next thing I see your name, and your comment replied to one of the guys just going, "You're a twig."
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
I saw him a twig.
I think you called him a twig.
I thought I called him like a toothbrush or something.
Oh
yeah, because he was hating, because this was a long time ago. It was a Pat Davidson video, and Pat Davidson was saying like you get squeezed like a tube of toothpaste or something, you know. Yeah. And the kid was hating on Pat, you know. It's like whatever, and I'm like, dude, you're a freaking toothbrush or something like that, you know. Like, yeah, that was a video, man. When Pat put that up on Instagram, that blew up. People were pissed about that. They're like, you can't, we're not a pancake and whatever. Then they're making memes about everything. And it's like, really? Like, I don't know. I laid down on my side and I put the sandbags on, and my hip internal rotation opened up and I felt pretty good. But that's all I'm going to leave it at. If people are going to be like, well, is it practical? Is it the best ways? I'm not getting at it like that. I'm just saying I did it. My hip internal rotation improved, and then I lifted. Am I going to do this every day for the rest of my life? I doubt it. But who does anything every day for the rest of their life? Like, what is practical? Because you can have like, here's the daily spinal flow, the 10 movements or something. There's no way you're doing this every day of your life. Yeah. No one's gonna be doing this. So it's like, maybe it's just novelty, variation, something like that. So but
I don't use it. I don't use that stuff. I actually prescribed something like that to a guy recently, for a very specific reason, but I don't use it. I feel like I have a responsibility to people with some of the following that I have now, that I've seen so many neuro tricks and stuff like that over the years, and I need to, like, you could also improve your hip internal rotation by just doing some foam rolling, or if I rubbed your eyebrow in a certain way, I've seen that too. If I changed the color in the room, if I said certain words to you, like, you know. So now, I'm not saying that there's not some kind of biomechanical explanation behind it, which I understand the explanation behind it, and I think it's valid enough. But I feel like, at least me, I have a responsibility to try and give people things that will, like, movement, you know, things that I can recreate and be very confident with, and get repeatable results again and again and again with different people. So, but you're a bit different to me in that regard, where your persona and your personality is a bit more like the strength coach guy, and I'm willing to try anything. And again, it's the narrative thing. You're just saying this worked for me. I don't exactly know why. I don't really care that much, but it helped me. Whereas me, I'm dealing with people more with like chronic pain, like, you know, real issues, that, like, mindset issues, really afraid of of their movement, been told lots of stupid things over the years that have stopped them moving, being so cautious they won't round their back to pick up a pencil, all of these things. So I have to be careful with those type of things. So I can see why people would bash Pat for some of the explanations that are put out there. But again, it's the narrative. If you just say this helps me, this works for some people, I don't really know why it works. Here's what I think, but maybe I'm wrong. That I don't have a problem with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. See, you're more caring than me. If I got someone like that, I'm like, just don't be soft, man, you know?
Yeah.
But the Pat thing, I was watching a lot of Bill Hartman, and I think you talked to me about that too. You're like, I don't know if you were talking specifically about that or other biomechanical systems. I don't know what it was, but you're like, when the complexity of the system increases, I want to see results increase. I think that's what you said on my show. Oh man, I spend an hour every time I eat food. I'll pull up a Bill Hartman video, you know, I was watching all this stuff, and I'm just like, I get months in and I'm like, have I changed anything what I do? Like, I don't. I do the same thing, you know. And what actionable thing have I taken from this? So like, I kind of just stop watching these videos. I watch every once in a while. I think, like, crazy smart dude, like really valuable stuff. But again, like, is maybe that for me. Sometimes I'm in that mood, sometimes I'm not, and usually I'm not. I'm just like, I don't care. Like, I'm good. My biomechanics are good. I can jump pretty high. I can lift some pretty heavy weights. I'm pretty strong. Like, I'm pretty good where I'm at.
I think we should be taught this stuff, like entering the industry. Not necessarily that Bill's model or anything like that, but like, I think there should be the standard for the industry is quite low. Like, you can talk to some coaches and they can't even tell you like that a squat involves hip flexion. They don't know what that means. So like, that's not great. So I think we should have a much higher level of understanding of biomechanics and loading and programming and all of these things. And then we can decide what to do with it. But we should be able to describe anatomical movements, positions, tissues, things that Franz Bosch talks about, muscle slack, all of these things. We should know these things. And then we can decide what to do with them in terms of like the practical aspects. But I do think we should know about them. But as complexity increases, I do want to see results increase as well, dramatically. And if that's not the case, then yeah, I just get frustrated with some people who will come at me or comment on stuff, and I'm like, show me the people that you're helping, how you do a better job than me, and then we can talk. Now, not that you can learn anything from anyone. Like, there is something you can learn, but if you're going to say that you're so smart and you're so good, like, show me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know. Mm-hmm. Okay, my last question for you. Oh no, do you have a second last question? This one is a bit vague. Anything else about knees? Anything you've been thinking about recently?
Oh, yeah, all day.
You're obsessed with knees.
No, it's just actually, like, I mean, I go back through my old protocol, and it's like there are, because I've interviewed so many people where it's like I got to change some things, but I've been looking back. I'm like, this thing's pretty solid, you know. That's what I was looking back. I'm like, yeah. But I'm also like, I got to change some things, and then I got to give more explanation, because people are stupid, and I kind of left things up in the air of like, here's how you implement it. Go ahead, make your own plan, because there's no recipe. But so yeah, I'm figuring out recently of like getting all this knowledge from the podcast and getting it into like a more packaged way where it's more usable for people. Because I'm sure like you will listen to the end of podcast, but like, will a kid with patellar tendinopathy go listen to that podcast? You know, he might just want a specific plan to do. So that's what I'm at. And then I have a lot of people like lined up that I want to get on and interview again, and they just haven't been getting back to me. I think I'm going to get Ebony Rio on again. I'm going to get that Michael Kerr, if he'll ever reply to my email, or Keith Barr. I've sent him 2 emails. I'm going to send him another email. There's some other people, like, really, I found some newer tendon people. I'm just like, you guys are talking about something that I didn't even know was there, you know? So I'm like, those are the shows that I think can be really interesting. But sorry, I want your thoughts. When I had Claire Robertson on, and she was saying patellofemoral pain is a pressure issue with, like, what are your thoughts? Like,
in what way?
Pressure in terms of like the way the kneecap is sitting is kind of like is off a little bit. So like it's causing this distribution and pressure could be causing that discomfort.
Again, going back to Bill would probably say everything is kind of a pressure issue in terms of the fluid dynamics, how the fluid inside the knee has been pushed around and how the knee has been pressurized in that way. So she's probably right in some ways. You know, yeah, she's probably right in some ways. But then I presume then she means that like that's being influenced from proximal or distal or.
Yeah, that's what it would be. Yeah, like the big one would be like that. If someone is a lot of valgus, that then you have that kind of weird stress, or if someone has like the VL tightness, IT outside tightness, that could cause that to kind of drift a little bit with the patella drift and cause a pressure difference. Yeah.
She's probably not wrong, but then like with so many of these issues, I don't know the answer, but like things like the foam roller bridge and something like that, someone does a few sets of that for a few weeks and they never get knee pain again. Some people, and maybe I don't know. Maybe that has changed how the joint is being pressurized or whatever. I don't know the answer. And then it depends how they actually do that bridge and where they put their foot pressure. You can change that. You have to change that for different people.
Yeah, I would. So sorry, I would think because she was talking about one of those groups with Patellofemoral is that there are the runners that have that like excessive knee bend, the runners that are getting too much. So like I think you do that foam roller bridge, soleus, you get a little better connection with the soleus, that you're not going to have as much of that push forward with the knee when running. I don't know if you would agree with that.
Yeah, maybe
that's what would be going on. Yeah.
Look, get more and get more. They need more access to their midfoot. Those type of people probably they need that more co-contraction, that more springiness, and that calf will take a serious amount of pressure off the knee joint then a lot.
Yeah.
And when they get that excessive knee bend, that's probably what End is talking about in the first place. It's not really, those runners won't be getting ACL issues or anything like that, but it's the same issue. It's a sagittal plane stiffness issue that they can't probably load their Achilles, and Franz Bosch as well. They can't maybe overcome muscle slack. They're sinking down into their knee all of the time. So there is a lot to consider there. And those people will probably, that's where people will say they're getting the valgus knee is the issue. The pronation is the issue. You'll see that those people actually can't pronate their foot in the first place because they're actually just like getting this deeper knee bend and an eversion of the ankle. And the tibia has actually been left in external rotation, whereas we'd like to see that pronation happen, a little bit of tibial internal rotation, just a bit, and then they spring back off again. So it's not, pronation is not the issue. It's either a sagittal plane stiffness issue, which is probably a lot of calf, maybe a bit of quadriceps strength, and how they manage their foot and the ankle. And it's actually an inability to pronate probably is the issue. Makes sense. Yep. Okay, cool. My last question, my generic question: you're gonna go on a desert island for a week. You have to bring, I don't know whether to, some people I ask you have to bring 3 coaches with you to, like, you get to learn from 3 people for a week. It doesn't have to be coaches necessarily. Who would you want to learn from, or who would you want to bring with you?
Oh, really? You ask this on every show, huh?
You should.
I really suck at these type of questions. I think I was on a show and like we just sat in silence for 2 minutes. I could think.
Can edit that out?
I don't know what show that was. I feel like that was like Kyle Dobbs' show. Maybe it wasn't though.
Did you hear the Lex Friedman interview with Elon Musk recently?
No.
Do you know who Lex Friedman is?
It sounds familiar. Who is he?
Yeah, he's a big podcast guy now. He's an AI guy. He's a big nerdy tech guy, but he's also a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and he has, after Rogan, it's probably the world's biggest podcast, but he has like the single worst haircut in the world. He's kind of, it's a short black haircut with like a fringe that's going straight across. He wears a black suit to all his interviews. But he's a bit of a legend, like, and he's really cool. He's young enough. You should watch it. But he asked Elon a question. It went viral a couple of weeks ago. The episode was released. he asked Elon, when will humans get to Mars? Or when will you get to Mars? And Elon didn't say anything for like 37 seconds. And everyone, like Lex was just sitting there looking at him. And then Elon was like, 5 years. And he actually, but it went viral because everyone, like, you could see the clock ticking. And they said, like, such a good interviewer that just left him actually ponder his answer, like, you know. Yeah. But it's different for you if you just don't have an answer. Maybe he just needed to let Elon think.
I don't even know what to say to that. 3 people I could
come on. Must have 3
people. It sounds like they have to be dead too. Huh?
No, they don't have to be dead.
Well, that's what it kind of sounds like, though.
Okay, you can choose an athlete if you want. You can choose.
I have a very like well, I watch a lot of sci-fi movies, like horror movies. Mm-hmm. So like you say, you're on a desert island, whatever. So I just immediately go to like thinking of old movies, so like the show Lost or like the movie Old with the M. Night Shyamalan, which kind of sucked. But
so you'd bring John Locke from Lost.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. I actually stopped watching Lost because it was around about halfway through, like season 4. They changed the TV to digital TV, so you could no longer use the antennas. And my parents only had one digital TV box, and it was in the living room, so I couldn't watch Lost anymore because someone was always watching something at the time. So I just completely gave up on the show. No, I
watched it. We watched this in lockdown like 18 months ago. I never watched Lost before, and for the first 2 or 3 seasons, it was unbelievable. And it was unbelievable because, I don't know, did you see the part where your man Hurley, the long-haired guy, the big guy, like these numbers, he had these mystical numbers on the lotto ticket. Did you see that?
Yeah.
But then, and everything, anyone who used the numbers, everything went wrong. Everything started blowing up around him and all this. And I was like, Jesus, I can't wait to find out what's going on with these numbers. They just never bothered explaining it. And they did this like 100 other times. I was like, I love John Locke. And then he just turned into another person. So you're better off not watching the last couple of
I think I watched the very last episode. And didn't they end up like they're all dead or something?
Yeah, they're all in a church or something. I don't know.
I didn't even understand it. Like I was like, is this getting out to the dead? Mm-hmm. People, coaches, I think dude,
doesn't have to be coach.
Why is this so difficult? I mean, you say,
who's your favorite basketballer?
Reggie Miller.
Okay.
Reggie Miller still living. I'd bring him. Why not? Yeah. Why not Reggie Miller? I could talk
Who's
to him
your
about
favorite tendon researcher?
I could ask him about Reggie. He has a photo, like an old photo of him like pouring alcohol down this like stripper's throat or something on Google. It's like, that's inappropriate, Reggie. Come on. I remember seeing that in high school. I was just like, it was such a shock to me. Like, Reggie's doing this? Like, we can't be doing that. Yeah, Reggie. Let's see what else. Football. And let's bring Verkhoshansky. Let's bring Verkhoshansky.
Oh yeah, okay.
Let's bring Verkhoshansky. Yeah. And
a leg extension.
And no, that one dude. So like let's bring an actor. The guy from Prison Break, Lincoln. I like him. He's a good actor.
Burrows.
Lincoln Burrows. Yeah, let's bring Lincoln Burrows. And the actual Lincoln Burrows, not the actor that plays Lincoln Burrows, but like the actual Lincoln Burrows. So he's on the island and he is Lincoln Burrows.
And Teabag.
Oh, I would not want him. Dude, that was a good show. That was an amazing show. Season 1 was like my favorite show of any
season. The best show, season 1 was unbelievable.
And then it just worse after that.
And then Michael died, and then actually turned out 10 years later he wasn't dead.
I didn't know that. I didn't even see that. I got to start watching the endings of these things. I didn't know there was. Yeah.
Remember they left it with like, they buried him. Like it was terrible at this stage, and then they just relaunched it like 2 years ago when he was alive again.
Really? I think that was another case where not with the TV issue, but it seemed like I was watching it on Fox on TV at the time. I was in high school, and they just stopped airing the show. Like it just went away, and I'm like, what? Yeah, I think that's what happened.
All right, man. Thank you very much.
Oh man, thank you.
Where are people going to find you?
So Instagram, Jake Tuura, Tuura. Everyone spells it with 2 R's, but it's actually with 2 U's. And the website is jackedathlete.com, and my podcast is Jacked Athlete Podcast.
Sweet.
That's it.
Legend. Go to Jake the Tendon Tuura. That should be your knee something website name. I think your URL. That's what I'm going to call you. Jake the Snake Tuura or Jake the Tendon Tuura.
All right.
All right, brother.